All right. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Thank you again to my subscribers. And if you are new to the channel, thank you for finding me. It's not a coincidence. Um, well, every month keeps getting crazier and crazier. I remember in June thinking things couldn't get any more interesting. Everything to do with the upcoming 2020 American election is as exciting as I thought it could guess, or as exciting as I thought it could get until yesterday or the day before, when my guest, Russell J. Gould, dropped another bombshell again. He's loaded full of ammo. So what exactly is the Director's Party?
Oh, so the Director's Party is an original construction of Nativity that is more of a people's party. I'm more not, I don't care about the politicians and then their lobbyists and that nonsense. What I'm looking at is the pulse of the people. I go out amongst them. I live with them. I go talk to them. I'm a very friendly guy. Hang out with hang out at the local pub if I need to, or just chill at a restaurant or whatever, right? It's just who I am. I'm listening to their needs and their concerns. Upon that, I built the construct it's taken me several elections to get through, as most of you may or may not know. If your audience has watched my film, Last Flag Standing, you can see some of the things that I've got myself involved in. And one of the things was this bankruptcy of the United States when we came out of bankruptcy in 1999, and the movement of how I got the flag, and this is my Title 411.9 dimension flag, which I'm a copyright owner and bearer of. Mm-hmm. And the flag is no longer going to hurt the world; we're going to help the world. So it's a different style of thinking. We're not where it stops all wars. I conducted a military court-martialing at the highest level in Washington, D.C. In that, one of the terms of the contract was, well, let me back up a little bit. So in 1999, the United States government came out of the third and final international bankruptcy. In that, they had to vacate the estate, which means they had to leave Washington, D.C. and vacate the presidency and vacate the Constitution, because the Constitution was the rules and regulations for the bankruptcy. But since none of the founding fathers were around to kind of do an amendment or a correction and upgrade the technology, the contract went null and void, and then they could vacate. And part of the vacation of that was vacating of the guidelines to elect president. And so that was what the Florida chapter was designed. And then when the 2008 was coming up, I was conducting this court-martialing, and I gave my boat swing, Colin George Walker, Colin Bush, I gave him his commands that there would be no presidential elections again. And of course, I don't want to come clean with the people. So because they don't have to follow any guidelines, they put somebody new in location. Doesn't even have to be like a U.S. citizen.
Right.
We go through 8 years of that nonsense, and then we get this new guy in there. And he's, more of the same, And so part of that was I loaded all electoral state election offices and ballot offices in the United States, as well as the U.S. Congress, shutting down the House and Senate so they couldn't pass any laws in court-martialing, and rewrote the federal elections laws and construct in quantum grammar, proving that the Federal Election Commission was 100% fraud. And in doing so, ended up proving that the position for president was fraud, and I syntaxed their oath. And I'm going to be presenting that as evidence. But the good news for the people is part of the Director's Party and part of the platform is that that's the bad news. Bad news is they're all full of crap. The great news, and the great news is that now I'm finally in the world's in position to watch some of the claims and some of the performance that I've done as Chief Judge of the U.S. Supreme Court, because they'll create the controversy, then they get to walk into my wheelhouse. Right. And they walk into my wheelhouse. That's what I'm guaranteeing the people right there. I'm fielding concerns. I've listened to all kinds of wonderful comments. And some of the concerns are coming from some of the scare tactics that are going on out here. And so I get to go to the Supreme Court and go be me. And the world will finally get to see, what that looks like. I'm a pretty peaceful, humble, quiet guy. But I wield a big stick when I walk in the door, because I am the stick. So it makes it pretty cool, because of all the mechanics of the foreign vessels in dry dock and how courthouses work. And these are things that, that I am in charge of worldwide. I'm also Chief Judge of the World Court at The Hague, and disqualified them in January of 2005 with the World Court at The Hague. The Netherlands traversed with me, and the court martial, Bush and Cheney, and all the things that's going on. I don't really want. That's all the bad news. We're really not focused on that. We're focused on the good news. So some of the things that the good news for the people of this country is I've just gone public with that I'm guaranteeing that no nations are going to smash our borders because, unfortunately, the American people haven't pissed everybody off. But some of the politicians and some of the policies, when they've been terraforming the world and creating these fake wars that I tried to document and tried to stop, they have stepped forward and they've pissed a lot of people off around the world. So because those people are now watching all the infighting that's happening here in the States and some of the chaos that is occurring, because people are upset and they should be. But instead of being upset, they should look at how we communicate and how that takes accountability for their lives, because it'll change the perspective of your life. Before I started this and got involved, I was a pretty wild and crazy guy. But the grammar taught a lot of accountability to me, and I looked and cleaned up my life and from within me, because the prepositional phrase, we get to precept the facts. So now that we can look at our condition of mind on why we're doing these things. And so I do things to help the people, and I've always been about the people and the country and the world. It's not just here, it's a global concern.
Right.
Up in Canada, I was appointed as Postmaster General up in Canada when that came out of international bankruptcy in 2017. So because of that, it's how you can check that is the Bank of Canada did a transfer of all their bonds back to England. When they did the transfer of all the bonds, that's when Prince Andrews announced that he was retiring, because he was the trust endowment manager and all the bonds would mature. So now he could walk away with the fat cat, so to speak.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I was just looking into that bond purchase the other day, and I'm no financial expert, but it came up as unusual, especially with the timing.
Yeah, well, it was based around an international bankruptcy of the Canada, and the Canadian citizens who I'm working up there with, we gave them the knowledge, and then they learned about the grammar, and we wrote a constitution up in Canada for the Canadian people, a sense of fairness, a sense of health, doing away with a lot of the tax structure that has been perpetrated upon your lives fraudulently. A lot of the court systems up there that are getting away with tricking you into walking in. And it's unfortunate because, Canada too is in a condition state of the martial law. Right. What I mean by that is, if you were to go to New York or go into any embassy for Canada, what happens is outside the embassy or the consulate post, they have a ball on top of the flag standard with a 3x5 bow flag of Canada on the flag standard. But when you walk in to the embassy, they have a spire on top of the Canada flag, which means they're at war. With the people. Yes, I sat down with the Canadian ambassador at the United Nations in 2003. They're very cognizant of this. They know they're at war with the people. And the people are coming into a bad situation where we're behind the 8 ball financially. And so nobody's really had the time to really put themselves in a position to where they could safeguard their assets with security, because unfortunately in the martial law, they're using guns and clubs against we the people. Right. And that's unfair for the people. And then they're letting chaos kick off so that they can allow this mass police state to come in and curtail that and put you into a different location as kind of things roll out here. So I'm in the middle of stopping that worldwide because I control all militaries on the planet. How I do that is in my voyage, if you go to Last Flag Standing, you can watch the movie, and it'll talk about the Universal Postal Union. And at the Universal Postal Union, I disqualified the shipping channels for militaries on the planet and became Postmaster General of each military on planet Earth. What that means is that before you go into the military in Canada, you will get your registration from the post office, because those are postal wars. It's always been the post office going to war and creating the money and dictating control of who they want to win. And so it's been a nasty game that's been played on for a long time. I figured it out, right? I'm the guy that figured it out. And on top of that, I put a solution on the table because I disqualified the International Bureau of Weights and Measures. What that means is part of my function as the controller of the global currencies. As you know, you have your let's say your cryptocurrencies, right? Right? and you have a function where you make a transaction, and in the transaction, it goes for verification. And then at the verification, things get mined, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Well, that verification construct is a form of measurement, right? We're measuring energy, what things are worth and what they're not worth.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So when I disqualified the International Bureau of Weights and Measures, I took control of that space as comptroller of the global currency because I articulated the finite quantum of what value of syntax is, which made me in control. And then I rewrote, in course, in my quantum banking system, I wrote the crypto-currencies, what I call plat cards and knowledge, which is a digital-based currency,
right,
backed upon asset and not a derivative function. So I could create a weights and measures. And then when I created my periodic table, it all tied into a tetrahedron for trilateral movement, so to speak, so I can pinpoint the verification process of the digital space and then be moved into the mining application.
Right.
So I just wanted to clarify, because there's a lot of confusion about, I made some claims out here, and people don't have the clarity of what I'm talking about. So you have a digitally based asset people that are in the viewing audience, so I wanted to give them closure on what I'm talking about so they don't have any confusion.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of unclarity as to potentially what is going on, for sure, especially with the difference between quantum, crypto, and blockchain.
Correct. Well, the blockchain itself will be designed that way. When I get your audiences involved with my book, because I have a whole department of guys
Yep.
going with the blockchain and the quantum banking system,
Yep.
that will actually dissolve the bank at a point. So it's a little creative style of my quantum banking system. Decentralizes banking and dissolves banking. I don't want to get those technologies out because everybody's going to steal from me. It's typical. So, trying to avoid all that, and let's see what that. But anyway, that's kind of what I'm talking about. On some of these claims that I've made in the crypto space, because there's a lot of people out here that have tried a lot of different scenarios. But at the end of the day, the verification of sums and differences is what I've disqualified. And there's sums and differences have to be registered with me because I syntaxed the charter, putting a quantum charter in position so that the people and the bankers and the free venture capitalists out there can come to me, of course, through the law of the flag, right? Because the platforms and the menus, part of the director's party, right? Part of the directing of the energy. And the energy then is given back to the people because it's up to them to manage, right? I don't want to manage their platforms. That the grammar manages it for themselves because it presets the facts so that did he set up a crypto that helped society, or did he set the blockchain itself, the smart house scenario that would benefit the situation, or did somebody not perform? If someone did not perform, well, then there's accountability clauses built within the quantum banking system. There's a lot of people coming out saying that they're coming out with the quantum banking system. If my thumbprint and fingerprint is not on that contract and I do not approve it, is not a valid banking system. And your audience knows that they're trying to steal from me, and that system has no foundation for any authority in any venue. And unfortunately, they're trying to make our lives and everything in our lives a utility, and they're shipping through their fraudulent birth certificate system, the things that they put in place. And these are things that my system has kind of fixed, so that you are not a utility. You're your own divine sovereign. It's up to you to find the greatness within each and every one. Right? I can't do that. I'm me. I don't claim to do that. But what I can do is show a pathway where accountability and correctness within oneself can be found in measurement in a space, which is the now space, of course. The fictional world will only give you the past tense and the future tense. It will give you no now space solutions. So this is what we hope helps you learn a lot too.
Gotcha. Got you. So is this, how will this tie into the coming election?
Well, the coming election is going to be very interesting because, as you know, it's all fake. All right, but I disqualified all the ballots. I disqualified all the laws for the Senate electoral votes. I disqualified the Senate. I disqualified the guidelines even to run for the statement of candidacy, which is a pronoun adverb verb. This is fictitious grammar in violation of Title 18, 1001. So the election itself is fake. The good news for the directors-party and for the people is they get to go create another scenario and the world's onto it because the corporate media, such as yourself and other media outlets out here are publishing this story, that they are going to now give closure to that. Hey, the Supreme Court, when you create the controversy, that's not their house. That's Postmaster General's house. That's Chief Gould, Chief Judge of the U.S. Supreme Court. You clear his scenarios. Did you clear his credentialing? This is where I guarantee the people of the world, the American people, and the people that are currently trying to be in location to run for a location, that you will come clean with not only the free energy that is available out here, but the technology to clean up people's lives as far as the education, where we will stop these wars, we will stop the scare of the bombardment of psychological warfare that is being drilled into us day in and day out, everywhere we turn. And the science tech is monstrous, as you know, very monstrous. The science tech wars, the things that are out there, science is a wonderful tool. I'm a science guy. Built many science solutions. Science is wonderful, but science used to manipulate the condition of thinking is unfair for the unsuspecting.
Right.
And these things need to stop.
Yes.
These things need to
they
stop.
do.
So it's a downsizing. It's a downsizing completely of the quantum system, the quantum banking system. Will downsize, as you know. All taxes are they're fictitiously conveyed on the planet. I have a consumption tax built on, where the people do not get taxed on what they make. They simply get taxed on what they purchase. There is no tax on when you die. You can pass your wealth onto your generations. This is how we build up our families. It's about keeping the families together. It's not about the bloodlines of the things that have been placed upon us right now. So.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So now a lot of my subscribers are dying to know what you're talking about. Sounds very similar to the NESARA GESARA scenario, which may or may not be. Do you have any comments in that direction?
Unfortunately, the grammar is so wrong.
It's still the old.
That it doesn't make sense with the quantum grammar. Yeah, with our grammar system, we can go in and out of our language and lose no deviation in our sentence structure, which means you can't sit around and argue over controversy of how one flows, right? The advantage of that is everything is maintained in a now space performance. The NESARA GESARA, they just don't tender that to the world. Simultaneously, they're disqualified because it's codified technically as a fee freight for bill of lading, and I've already taken out the whole postal system on planet Earth. So they'd have to come through my construct in order to move it into the now space. They just haven't done that. And then there's a lot of technical concerns about where the funds have come from, of course.
Right.
And with my system, it was all not self-made. Big difference.
Yeah.
So, and the hallmarking and all the things that I have in place is control of the global currency and the ability to create the sums and differences, because I have my own global hyphen bureau of the weights and measures. They don't even know what these things are. And yet they're going to give it to the people.
Right.
Really?
Right. I see.
Really? I mean, so you're going to present a plant banking platform. You've got no fee freight. You've got no grammar. You've got no ability to create sums and differences. You have no flag. you have no shipping lane, and you have no foreign vessel in dry dock because I disqualified all land titles on the planet. What exactly are you offering again?
Fair enough. Fair enough. Interesting. It's very interesting.
You tell me.
Yeah.
Somebody tell me what they're tendering. I don't know. When you say, Sarah, are you talking about nerf, elephant? I mean, what what value do you want me to place on these acronyms? Where's the closure for the people?
Right. See, and while you're sort of mentioning that, for those who aren't totally familiar with the syntax grammar, which are most people, basically the ultimate, in my understanding, the ultimate bottom line is whatever is written down is there is zero interpretation. Period. What is written down is how it is, regardless of who's reading it and when they're reading it.
It reads frontwards and backwards. It reads the same. So we don't have any confusion about who gets paid when. Right. And how the transaction goes. And so it cleans up a lot of the ambiguity of, on this date it's going to come. Well, they write it in that way, including adjectives and pronouns in front of their scenarios. So the adjective can mean anything. You're going to get paid on this date. On this day. Oh, you are. You're going. Yours an adverb making going a verb. To is a future tense adverb. Be, so it just goes like fiction upon fiction upon fiction upon fiction.
Right.
That, where's the solution? I'm asking, where's the solution? People keep talking about all this. Where's their mates and measures? Where's their flag? Where's their fee rate for the bills of the lading? Where's their rollout program for the people?
Right.
I've given my rollout program to the people. It's on file with every treasury on planet Earth. But I don't know what they've done. And how come I don't have a copy of their charter? I'm going to tell you why. Because I'm going to pitch it in the trash. Because it doesn't say anything.
Understood. Well,
what do you want me to do?
Right.
You want me to hold on to that fraudulent grammar and try to make sense of it? Because it don't make sense to anybody.
I see.
The world's moved past the fraudulent grammar. We've moved past that. We want closure. We want fairness. We want a system on the table that everybody has complete terms.
Right. Terms.
We know when
not up for interpretation. That's very interesting.
Correct.
Very
interesting. The nice thing about me is I control all courthouses on planet Earth. Because why? Because that courthouse is a foreign vessel in dry dock under the Department of Transportation for that country. What that means, sir, is if you are in Thailand and you go to the courthouse, guess what you got to do? You got to pull out your ship's papers, otherwise known as your transportation papers, your driver's license, or your passport.
Right.
That all gets authorized through that country's post office, and that country's post office, I already took out the grammar for the foundation. That's the postal union.
You've been busy.
I've been busy. Yeah, I rewrote the construct of the whole banking construct. That's why I'm global currencies. This is why all the job titles are in place. This is why, because I am this person. I am who I say. And if you're going to move, say what is a Nasara? I don't know, right? So no one can define that. So you got something undefined, and it's going to move value from Japan to the United States. Well, how are you going to do that? When I got the flag, how are you going to move that? Because here's the next question. I have a question for you. If you're divorced in Canada and you show up to Japan, are you and your wife still divorced?
I'm really not sure. I would assume so.
Yeah, and here's why that's true. Because the clerk of court has to put a file stamp on it. The file stamp is classified as a postage stamp, and the postage stamp has joinder between the stock market from Japan and Canada, who are on the same stock market comms for commerce under the Bureau of the Weights and Measures, which means you and your wife are still divorced in Japan. It's a one world order. Get used to it, right? However, because I took down the ability for them to put a postage stamp on anything, they have to come through my criteria. So that's my courthouse in Japan.
Oh, wow.
And by the way, that Japanese military, that's mine too. Knowledge. I'll just keep it simple, and I don't want to get too much.
All military.
Each military.
Each military. Wild. Well, sure. Yeah. There's no shortage of information.
All. How do you define all?
Yeah, fair enough, right?
No, I mean, I am who I said. You know, I've done what I've done for the world. There are not going to be any more wars. Now, there's going to be a few guys out here that are going to resist and try to scare us into, here's some of the scare tactics. Go ahead and put on a mask.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's scare tactics going on. So they're trying to figure out a war, how to scare people, thinking that there's mass copious amounts of death going on. Oh, by the way, but you can't have any funerals.
I've noticed. Noticed.
And everything's a COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Come on.
Oh, yeah. People are figuring it out, too. People are figuring it out. It's become painfully obvious. Even the most blind have to see through some of this bullshit, if you pardon my language. We're all figuring it out.
Well, we're being dealt it. Yeah, the good news is your audience gets to watch. You don't have long to wait. Some performances are coming up, bro.
Good.
You guys don't have long to wait. That's the good news. The bad news is tough love dealt out. That's the bad news.
Yeah.
That's the bad news. Not for the people, of course, but for those that have been, how should we say it, peeing on our necks and telling us it's raining.
They need bad love.
They need a lot. Well, you know, I'm a pretty nice guy, for sure. But there's another side of me that's very tactical. You know, I think that I've extended a lot of grace, a lot of compassion. I think a lot of the people in the fiction world think that, we've just got away for so long. My space is now. It's coming. Good. Count on it. The people world wins. Our families wins. Our loved ones win. Our health wins. Think about the health that they're giving us. Are you kidding me, man? Come on, Matt. You think there's a problem really with cancer?
Yeah.
Really? There are geniuses.
Oh, I know.
The 80s, the 90s that have been run off this planet that brought the solutions to the table. Come on, man.
Oh, I know.
Really?
Yes. They practice medicine on us, right? You know, if they cure us, they don't make any money. So
yeah, they practice.
Mm-hmm. Like little guinea pigs.
That's the problem. And you know what? The banks have failed, and so has Big Pharma. They have failed us all.
Oh, big time. Clearly.
Big time.
Very clearly.
And the insurance companies are all over. So the insurance companies can no longer stand behind Big Pharma because the insurance contracts are all written in fraudulent grammar, which means there is no insurance on the planet because in is a prefix, but when used as in is a preposition, but when used as a prefix to a word means no.
Right.
So they're offering you no insurance. Right.
No,
so these words mean things, and so as the people figure out, it's called parsing. It's called breaking words. You're breaking things down. So we're looking at the prefixes and suffixes to words. Like un. Un is a condition of state of negative.
Right.
The X as a prefix is a condition of state of negative.
Right.
You know, so all these words really that you do it. You separate yourself from your position. The prefix DE means to separate from. So you're separating yourself from your position, and then the bank's handing you a receipt. The prefix re means no, so they're giving you nothing back. Therefore, you've just separated yourself from your position, and they've given you no proof of what you separated from. And you walk out the door, and you break the continuance of the evidence, and you displace yourself from your whole world. The quantum system is not about that. We have posits. We give positions. It's a whole different style of banking that gives a fairness to where you can keep your equities. So the people are figuring it out, which is really cool.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very humbled. You know, I don't claim to be I've done a lot of things, but if you were to meet me, I'm pretty fair with myself because I have to be.
Yeah.
And as I'm fair with myself, then that translates to fair with others. Absolutely. And I give a chance because you have to until it's time not to. You know, if you don't know something, you don't have knowledge, you're what's called in nonsense. You have no nonsense. You have no sense, right? But once you give them knowledge, then it comes down to the condition of thinking, because did they stop and correct? Did they do the correct thing? And right. So these things all have to be looked at, and that's where the prepositional phrase and the verb of thinking in our sentence structure, that's where that gets looked at. And as a judge, the world's going to get to see me use that at the Supreme Court and the things that I do. So I'm excited for the world. I'm excited for the people because it's going to be a winning situation. And everybody, you know, here in the States with this election, they need to stay calm. They need to stay peaceful. The solution's already done. And you just need to watch the performances and then just get the benefits of that. Right. So, you know, but it also requires, you know, it's not a free handout. It's not a free lunch. You know, there's real value in working hard. There's satisfaction in a good day's work.
Huge.
For sure.
Huge.
Absolutely. But it's unfair to the people that they're forced to go to work out of necessity, because as in our country and as many others, a lot of these guys go off to these universities because they're told education is the way to go. And they're in so much debt by the time they come out. It's really, really unfair. So they're behind the ball game, way out the chute. And that all needs to stop. And so the quantum system does put a quash to all of that, because the banks have already been paid. They've already taken the money, put it on bundling piles, and traded it amongst themselves. The banksters have gotten filthy rich. I don't want to get into all the technicalities of it, but every dollar they give you, that's called a credit, and then debit, and then they switch that out and play games amongst themselves with that. Oh, I got a debit. Oh, I'll give you a credit, and they pay themselves back and forth behind the scenes, right? Real nice game they've been playing.
Oh, I'm sure.
So
I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
Now, if I could get going back to George W. Bush, so he would be. Yes. Well, he would be the first fraudulent president?
He was the first fraudulent president.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Under the terms of the Constitution, which was the bankruptcy charter, the guidelines for electing the president. Yes. Right.
So, to folks who have been watching since George W., it would appear up until Trump, they have all had the same agenda. And it appears Trump does not have the same agenda, and that he is, in fact, a good guy, as we would call on our team. Would that be accurate?
I've never had a conversation with him. Well, I've never had a conversation with the guy, you know, and I don't pass judgment. You know, I can't pass judgment upon what anybody's doing. But, right. You know, if I have a conversation with the guy and get to know people, then I would make a decision on that.
Okay.
Right, because I can't really. You can know about. You can know somebody. You know, you see him. He hires a lot of crummy people. Don't know what. Don't take it for whatever you think that is. But then he hires some good people too.
Right.
So you know, you're like, huh? What? Yeah. So it's an interesting dichotomy for him to be in. You know, and you got to remember, he came into a crummy deck. He didn't have a flag. He didn't have a military. He didn't have a post office. Didn't have a court system. Didn't have anything. So, you know, you got to put that into consideration. I already taken it all. So he's real, like, from a tactical command control situation, he's way behind the game. But that's on him. You know, I don't know what he knows, and he's being only fed what his generals gave him.
Fair enough.
And most of them got stuck in the court-martialing anyway, so okay. It's true.
All right. Wow, it's wild stuff.
Oh, yeah. You can count on it.
Geez, wild stuff. Like I said, I thought November was going to be pretty exciting to start with. Now it's now I just can't wait.
Oh, I'm not going to let myself down.
Right.
Judge, baby, yeah. I'm not going to let myself down. I know who I am.
Wild, wild stuff. Wild stuff.
You can count on it.
You got time for one more question?
I got time for one more, and then I got to go, my man.
I think so. Sort of off topic, but a very similar scenario. Do you know who Joseph Gregory Hallett is?
I don't.
He's the man that claims to have that claims he has a rightful claim to the throne in the UK. You should check it out. It's very interesting.
All kingships were done under heraldry because of the tales of the estates in 2003 at the Vatican. And so all kingships and queenships were placed on because there are not going to be any more dictators allowed on the planet. So there was contracts put in place. Sadly for him, he's pretty, new to the scene. That is, if you're saying somebody, sorry, never heard the name. I do apologize.
Oh no, just curious.
I don't pay attention to fake news, so maybe that's why. I don't know.
Well, it's one of those subjects that comes up that
I apologize.
Oh, no, not at all. No, not at all. It's just a similar scenario.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I just know that what I did under Cosmic Crown. I have contracts in place. There's some cosmic stuff and done away with in 2000 again. And so that style of heraldry and kingships are not allowed anymore. So it is what it is.
Fair enough. We will see how he plays out anyway. It's just a matter of time, really. More waiting, more things to wait for, right?
Well, the good news is I'm a performer, and that's the good news. So thank you so much. Thank you, your audience. Hey, you had some great questions. I appreciate it. Hey, if anybody in your audience wants to follow what I'm doing, they can go to lastflagstanding.com. They can see updates of what I'm doing and some of the latest things. But, that's lastflagstanding.com. I really do appreciate your time, sir. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you so much for being with me. I appreciate it tremendously.